Hello and welcome to everyone accompanying us in the newest episode of Pier-to-Pier Podcast, where we bring those who reside within the virtual worlds and the studies and knowledge that they carry. Tonight at the Pier, I have somebody whose line of work actually drew interest to me. Somebody that, while their work might be complicated or dangerous, they're actually they're pivotal to society. They're the builders of our world. Not the virtual one, but the real one. And they have so many interesting things to say and to share with us tonight, as we have Chicken Joe with us. Chicken Joe, welcome to the Pier.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, let's begin the same way we begin with all of our guests here at the Pier. I want you to give us a quick little introduction of who you are.
So, my name's Chicken Joe. Most people call me Joe. I am 26 years old. I live in the great, beautiful United States. And over the last few years after getting out of college, I've found myself in the construction industry. And so far, I have not looked back. And I may not use my degree, but I really enjoy the line of work I found myself in.
Okay, so you went to college, which, some people might think that going to college might be a waste of time. I do believe that people deserve some sort of preparation, even if what they do at college doesn't necessarily become the thing they do later in life. But you decided to pursue a job in construction, even though it wasn't related. So why did you decide that? And please tell us a little bit about what you do in your line of work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for starters, I do recommend college for those who have a meaningful degree and job and career they want to work in. However, I actually went to school for media production. I wanted to be an editor. I wanted to make advertisements, and I still love that type of work. But at the end of the day, I noticed it just wasn't going to pay the bills, at least in my perspective with my experiences. They were offering people jobs with a bachelor's degree, and they were offering like $15 to $20 an hour. And my first initial thought was, I got to survive in this world. I got to make a living. And I was like, I can make more than that working in a warehouse. So straight out of college, I started talking to some friends, and, I really needed to get my life going because I felt like I was not prepared at all, which that's a great reason why I'm glad I went to college, because straight out of high school, I was not ready for the real world. So it definitely gave me time to mature. And I was an Amazon delivery driver for like 5 months. And when you start doing line of work like that, where it's just repetitive, same thing every single day, you're not getting paid much money, you're working out in the sun, in the cold, depending on the time of year, that really motivated me to the point where I was like, I need to change something in my life and do something for the better. And some of my buddies gave me the great idea of potentially looking at working in the parts department for construction companies. So I started my construction career, if you will, being a parts guy for Caterpillar, the company that makes bulldozers, excavators, skid steers, all your general dirt work. And from there, I worked my butt off there. I worked 10-hour shifts, 5 days a week, second shift even, 3 p.m. to midnight. Sometimes we had to work 12 until 3 a.m. It was hard, and, the hours sucked, but at the end of the day, I looked at it as a resume builder. And I was like, if I can just suck it up and get through it, and if there's anything I can tell people who are struggling to get better jobs, you sometimes have to just take the jobs that aren't fun and just grind through it, because at the end of the day, every job is a resume builder. And just because you might hate your life, you might be like, I do not want to go to work today, I just want to quit. Just stick with it. It looks better to employers hiring you if you've stayed at a job for at least a year. It shows commitment, for one, that you're not just job hopping. And it means a lot, especially for the younger generations like me. I'm in my mid-20s, and a lot of older employers look at me like I'm just some kid that's, going to goof off more than work. So you really gotta, give them a good example of who you are and show them you've worked some crappy jobs and you've stuck with it. And that's how I got into my next job, which then I moved from Caterpillar to John Deere. And I worked for a John Deere dealership for a little over a year. And when I was working for John Deere, I was a rental manager. So I went right up from working in the parts department to getting a job being a rental specialist or rental manager, whatever you want to call it. So at that point, I went from being a little parts boy, getting dirty all day, building hydraulic hoses. It helped me learn a lot about the industry starting in that beginner position. And then I switched over to actually being in control of my whole department. I ran the whole thing by myself. Every company in my city, in the central region of my state, every rental came through me if they were going through our dealership. And that was really cool. It was stressful. It was a lot. You might be working on a deal that's worth, $500,000. You got to do a bunch of paperwork, make sure everything's in line. But it was nice to go from more of a grunt manual labor job to a desk job. And I worked that for about a year or so. I had some issues with management. I didn't get along with them. And my original boss moved to a different company, a concrete cutting company. And he offered me a job because he knew I wasn't happy with my management. And I accepted it. And the position I took within this concrete cutting company is called a GPR analyst. And GPR analyst just means ground penetrating radar. And that's how I've gotten to where I am at now. And with this current job, I get to travel all over the country, and I do things like locating, scan concrete to see what's in it, which is a very crucial and important step before the rest of the general laborers come through or operators to start digging. So it's really cool to be a part of so many different job sites across the country. And your main purpose there is to make sure people go home at the end of the day. Because as I'm sure we'll get into here in a little bit, when you're working on a construction site, sometimes it seems like overkill, the amount of training they hit you with, all the safety equipment you have to wear. But truthfully, you can die. It's not just like going to a regular desk job. There's cranes holding stuff over your head that could be, weighing thousands of pounds. If a cable snapped or something, you're going to get crushed. And at least with my job, in some ways, with what people are doing, I can try to ensure that people are getting home safe every night. And that means a lot to me, knowing that they can go home and still see their families and put food on the table for them.
I do understand that construction is a very dangerous job. Like you said, I mean, there are inherent risks. Anything can go wrong. So you always need to be in complete control of your situation and even the people that you work with. So, for example, when you're working in such a potentially dangerous environment, in your opinion, how important is trust?
Oh, man, trust is the most important thing when it comes to working on a job site. There's times where your life will be put in other people's hands, and the only way to actually get through a job site safely and work on them consistently is trust the people you work with. You still have to look out for your own, don't get me wrong, because people do make mistakes, so you should always be checking stuff yourself. But there's been times I've been in a few cases where first day I ever met this guy, and there's a strong language barrier in between us. He spoke nothing but Spanish, and I speak nothing but English. I know 2 Spanish words. All right. And my safety rope was almost out of length. So as we were on the swing stage device, you have to tie off the different sections of safety rope as you go down. Otherwise, your rope's just going to end and you have nothing else holding you onto the building in a sense. So if something were to happen and you were to fall, you have nothing anymore to save your life. That piece of rope that looks like you just went to Home Depot and bought a general rope, believe it or not, that's there to save your life. And it's kind of scary thinking about, it's just one little rope and that's all that's there to save your life. But at the end of the day, it's better than nothing. It's been, they test that stuff. There's a lot of preparation that goes in. And that also shows why you have to trust other people in their jobs, because you're not the one installing those safety ropes. They're already there. So, someone else could have installed it that you don't even know. You might never even meet them in your life. But you have to trust that these guys know what they're doing in their job to, in a sense, help you and save your life in case of an accident. And with my case on that swing stage, my safety rope, we were still about 300 feet up in the air. My safety rope had 10 foot of length left. Strong language barrier between us. He noticed. I didn't even notice my own safety rope was running out of length. And, if something were to happen, I could have fell out and just fell to my death, as it was a very sketchy situation where it couldn't free float up and down the side of the building. There's concrete piers poking out. So we're hanging over the edge of this little bucket tray that you're sitting in, pushing it and swinging it off the building to get clearance to go around these concrete pillars. So, it wasn't really the ideal situations, especially to run out of your safety rope. But this guy started yelling at me, and I don't know Spanish. I didn't know if I screwed something up or what was going on. And he started yelling at me and pointing, and he yelled out rope. And I was like, what is he talking about? I look at my coworker behind me, and he goes, what is he talking about? And I go, I don't know. I think he's got to do something to his rope. And he stopped the machine, the lift coming down the side of the building. And that's when I realized my safety rope was literally almost done for. And this guy, who I never met in my life, pretty much could have just saved my life right then and there, as he noticed that my safety rope was out. He doesn't even know my name. He doesn't even speak my language. But I trusted him. This is what he does for a living. And he was able to help me out. He got me a new safety rope. He did all the work for me. Since there's a language barrier, I couldn't really tell what he wanted me to do, so he just did it for me. And that guy, in a sense, could have saved my life. And that was my first experience realizing, just because you don't understand each other on a job site, people are still looking out for each other. Everyone looks out for each other on a job site. No one wants to see anyone get hurt, get sent home. You might not be able to work. These people have families. If they can't work, their family's not going to eat. So everyone's, constantly watching each other's back. It may sound like sometimes they're mad at you, and you might hear someone get yelled at, but at the end of the day, it's typically because they don't want to see you go home in a casket or a body bag. And that's a very real thing I've learned very early on in this industry, is that people do die time to time or get severely injured. They lose limbs. You never know what's gonna happen. These job sites change so much by the day that you might go there today, but by tomorrow there could be a totally new set of hazards you don't even know about. And that's why communication is also very key, because, like I said, we don't want to see anyone get hurt. Everyone's just there to get their paycheck at the end of the day.
Everybody's there to do a job, to put the little grain of sand in the pile. But I mean, especially in the construction industry right now in the US, I imagine there's a lot of immigrants who are currently working jobs like in agriculture and construction. How deep is the presence of foreigners in your line of work?
There's many jobs I go on where me and my coworker who are hired in, they're the main general contractor will hire our company to come in and so we can do our job. So we bounce to different job sites all the time. We'll usually end up on some multiple times. So we'll get to know some of the people there. But a large portion of the people on these job sites that are building like the infrastructure of the United States right now, a lot of them are foreign immigrants. It's really hard. Like, we honestly have to just pull Google Translate out to figure stuff out. And at first it seemed very frustrating. I'm like, God, this is so annoying. I've got to go through Google Translate. But after I've been around it long enough, I've also realized that these people working on the job sites are some of the nicest guys I've ever met. A lot of times you think about working on a job site, it's a bunch of like, real tough, scary dudes. Nah, man, at the end of the day, everyone's just there to get a paycheck and support their family. And a lot of them are very family-oriented people. And they're some of the friendliest people I've ever met, even though I don't speak their language. We'll be like cracking jokes to each other through Google Translate. And I'm like, oh my God, these guys are like so chill. You can say whatever you want to them. They'll laugh, they'll joke with you. It's real. It makes it even funnier when you got to do it through Google Translate, because there's the awkward pause and waiting period as each person's reading each other's text in a sense. But a lot of the foreign immigrants are actually some of the nicest people I've met compared to even the like tourists, that might be visiting these cities, or just the locals that live there. I'm like, man, I'll be walking down the street where I'm doing some of these jobs, and just some of the everyday people are assholes. But these foreign immigrants I'm working with on these job sites, we can't understand each other, but they do anything for me, is the type of attitude they give. They're great people to work with, I will say.
For example, what are some things that maybe people who don't work with immigrant workers often misunderstand? Like right now in the press, like they always talk about foreign immigrants like everybody's bad. Everybody's here just to mess about. None of them here to like actually work. But since you work with them, what is something that is often misunderstood about them?
A lot of people, I was a little bit misunderstood too, because I've never really gone out and had a conversation, with some of these foreign immigrants lately. Obviously you talk to some, but a lot of times you might not even realize someone's a foreign immigrant, especially if they speak pretty fluent English. Some of my coworkers are immigrants that came here. The ones I know, at least like personally, they came here legally, and they speak fluent English. I would have never known they were not born and raised in the U.S. And they would tell me like, oh yeah, I grew up in this part of Mexico, or I grew up in this part of the world. I'm like, you speak fluent English. Like I couldn't even tell, so a lot of times you'll be talking to people who are immigrants. You have no idea, they're just everyday people. And that's what makes the United States the United States. It's supposed to be a melting pot, a whole bunch of different cultures combined into one. That's why we have great things like Taco Bell and KFC that could be side by side. All right. We have great cultures that mix together. However, when it comes to a lot of times where you see the bad rep is the foreign immigrants that don't speak English. And, a lot of people might think, it's more or less, I feel like it's misunderstood. Because, how would you feel if you approach someone and they don't speak your language when you're expecting them to, and they start rambling stuff off, let's say in Spanish? I feel like a lot of people jump to the conclusion that like, oh, they're like talking shit about me. When in reality, they probably aren't. It's like something you have to experience. Like go out there and like meet new people, go talk to people who are not from your own country. It doesn't matter if you live in the US or, somewhere in Europe and there's, immigrants coming into Europe. Talk to those people. I've met some people that are from Venezuela, from Mexico, from all over the globe. And the coolest thing is, even if you have to use Google Translate, a lot of times these people are some of the nicest people you've ever met. They're not violent. There sure is some, there's always some bad apples. There is in our own society that are from here as well. There's always going to be the bad ones. But 9 times out of 10, they're all very great people. They came here for a reason. They're trying to support their family, just start a new life, have the opportunity to make good money. And they are hard workers because of it. And they know, like, the amount that they had to sacrifice to leave their home and come to a completely different part of the world where hardly anyone speaks their native language, and they might not even know, say English, which is the primary language in my country. Think how scary and intimidating it is for them to come here, because the amount of people that can understand them is very little compared to the general population. And like, just like a guy I met from Venezuela, he could speak English. It was a little bit broken English, and we had a conversation. He turned out being a nicest guy I ever knew. Like, would do anything for you type of guy. Turns out him and I were literally born on the same day and same year. We literally share the exact same birth date. And we, once we found out that information about each other, it instantly turned like we were best friends. Like here where I live, in the cities, even talking to people who aren't immigrants, everyone's an a-hole. You'd be walking down the street in some cities. I'm from the country, and in my hometown, if you're walking down the side of the street and you walk past someone else and you say, good morning, how you doing? You always get a nice friendly response of like, oh, I'm doing good. How are you? I'm on my way to do this. What are you doing? You say that here in the cities, people just stare you down and don't respond, or they tell you to F off. And it's like, that was a culture shock for me, just moving towards the cities for work, is like, people don't have that hospitality. But you still seem to find that with a lot of these foreigners. They're very people-oriented. Their friendships and family are like their main priority.
I can speak from experience. I can speak from experience because I was actually born and raised in a Latin American family. And there are more values about family and about community than probably in big cities. Because even though, for example, I live in a quote-unquote big city, I live on the capital. But there's still like a sort of connection that you can still find with many people here, because even though it's a city, there's still many people that have been raised from these values, or many people that live in the city who've come from the country, and still carry those values, and it's different. Here, we have each other. Maybe somewhere like in the States or in other countries, people are like out for themselves. There's still like some values like that. So I can speak from experience. It's hard to explain, but you still have that connection, and the fact that you also have that experience yourself being raised in the country. It's only refreshing. It would be refreshing for a Latin American like your friend from Venezuela to actually get that exact same warmth they probably have received way back home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I hate about America right now, is people get so divided on politics, and people won't talk to each other. Like, we're all still people. Like, who cares? Like, who voted for who? Like, people are making enemies for no reason just because how their opinions. Politics at the end of the day, it comes down to your personal opinion. And
what we like doesn't make us less of a person. That's totally right. We have our differences, we have our likes, but like that doesn't necessarily have to dictate whether or not we can be friends or we can talk to each other. Because at the end of the day, there are things that don't really have anything. It's preferences, It's like having a favorite color. You can like blue, and I like red, and that doesn't mean we have to be enemies. It just means that we have different tastes, and that's okay. People need to accept each other more. I feel like we're just trying to create more walls. Like, we're trying to distance each other and just create walls when we should be creating bridges. Or in this case, piers. We should make more piers.
Yeah. And you said you grew up in like more of a country background. Is that correct?
No, so in Latin America, even in big cities, there's still like some people that have been raised with values of the country. Like, even my mother was raised in the country. My dad was more of a city person, but there's still values that even you in a Latin American big city, you can still learn, and there's still like some sort of connection. And even families really, really close. To the point that I'm still in contact with my second cousins and third cousins, even though they're distant they're distant blood relatives. I still treat them like my own personal family, like my actual cousins. So there's still like this, like, even though like family might be very distant, like blood wise, we still treat each other like we're very close. And that's something that it's not really present in many families nowadays. I mean, you're only usually in contact with like your direct uncles or cousins or and your grandparents and your parents, but not really all of that distance. Kind of like, oh no, we're related because of my great great grandfather. Like people are not like that. But you still find families nowadays that are like that, that are all about values. And even, for example, even some of your colleagues from Mexico, your fellow immigrant workers, they probably are like really tight knit, really close with all of their families, and that also really, really helps to develop character, which I mean might be reflected in their interactions and their, and their positive energy that they reflect.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really get in and look at it, most people that have like a strong connection to their family, they're very family oriented and also like friend base oriented. And what I mean by that is like, they're willing to go out and make new friends because they have that hospitality. And growing up in more of a country background, I'm from Appalachia, which a lot of people just assume everyone there's, a dumb redneck or a hillbilly, which there is that there. I'm not going to deny. That's definitely very prominent. But at the same time, I mean, I kind of miss living in my old hometown just because I could walk down the street and go up to a stranger and just have a conversation with them. Because everyone's just friendly with each other. Like, and then I feel like there's so much hate almost when you move to big cities. And I don't know if it's because everyone's always like on top of each other. Like, look at those massive apartment complexes you see. It's just people crammed in everywhere. Like, no one ever like gets their own space, and that would drive me nuts. I know that. I like living on some land. I like having my own little chunk of this country, and where I can do whatever I want. And whenever I go into the cities to go do stuff, with friends, or I've just got to go buy some things. There's times where you walk in or you're walking down the side of the street and you just look at someone and I'll be like, hey, how are you doing? They'll just stare you down like you're insane for talking to them. And I'm like, why is everyone in the cities like so angry? I will say though, when you see it more when you go down south where people in the cities are a bit more friendly. Just that I've experienced in my job since they're shipping me all over this country. And some of the places I've been working in the South, when I'm going into these towns, you do see a little bit more of that hospitality, even in the big cities. But when you start going up north, I don't know what it is. Dude, like, people are just rude.
And there's probably just distrust because of different climate, as in, for example, maybe there are more crime rates. Maybe there's there's reasons why people decide not to really open up, but it has to do also with the people. It's sometimes what's the term? It was the architecture, aggressive architecture, that might make people feel more claustrophobic, especially being in big cities, big towers. There are a bunch of things like. I know people might not believe this, but like being surrounded by greenery can actually really drive good mental health, good mental image, emotion. Touching grass is not a meme. Touching grass is quite literally rejuvenating yourself, making you more comfortable, more happy. Like, it's not just because you spend a lot of time on a computer. It's literally to connect with nature, to really bring back that positive energy that a lot of people nowadays are lacking. So absolutely. Big cities are just aggressive in nature. And that might lead to the thing. Yeah.
They really are. So to anyone listening to this, whenever anyone tells you to go touch grass, go touch some grass. Go outside, get in nature, because chances are I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I do work outside a lot, but typically I'm on a job site. Go out in the woods, go on a hike, go grab a couple buddies. Go out in the woods and explore. Even if you got to drive out of your city a ways, just go do it once in a while. You'll feel better. you might think it's boring and lame and you just want to sit at home and play VR chat and complain about phantom pain and like live in your mom's basement. But like, go outside. Like, you know, the virtual world doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Your social media doesn't mean anything at the end of the day either. Like, your job, your family, your friends, and your mental health. Those are really the only things you should be focusing on. And I feel, just like you were saying, is not enough people in today's generations, the younger generations, including my own, you know, I'm guilty of this too. We do spend a lot of time sitting behind screens. I mean, just today, I've spent a lot of my time just sitting on my PC playing games. And yeah, I'm talking to some friends, and you could say I'm being social. But there's a difference between being social sitting on a screen, like how I'm talking to you, versus if we were actually sitting in the same room as each other, you know? And I feel like a lot of people, I used to be in the mindset of, oh, well, I'm being social because I'm still talking to people. Until I started getting more into a sales job when I worked at John Deere. And I realized, I'm like, it took me like a few weeks to get used to it. But I noticed I was spending so much time on the internet that real life conversations started to feel a little weird and awkward at first, you know? Because you're looking at someone in the face, and if you just stop talking or you don't know what to say, like, you're going to look like an idiot. And I just think it's good for people to go out, you know, make a few friends. Or even if you don't have friends that want to go do that stuff, just go do it solo. Like, I go out in the woods all the time by myself. I go ride my bikes, mountain bike, dirt bike. I'll go to ski resorts by myself just because it's what I like to do. And it gets me outside. You know, I get some exercise. And you know what? When I go out, I've made so many new friends by just going out and doing the hobbies I like to do, even if I'm doing it alone. Because eventually you will run into more people. And as long as you're being nice, chances are they'll be nice right back to you. And bam, you made new friends. I make new friends now all the time where, like, you know, I have friends for like each set of hobbies I do. And I have a lot of hobbies. I could call someone up about going dirt bike riding right now. I got like 10 dudes I could call. I got 10, 20 dudes I could call about going skiing if it was in season right now. And before, a lot of these people I never knew until I just started going out and having fun. Because before, I never wanted to go do anything alone. But I feel like getting outside even alone is good for you. It pushes you to go do things, and it'll like build a drive within you, and it'll make you open up, and you'll start meeting new people. And I feel like that's really good for people as well who have a very sheltered life as well. You know, go meet new people. It is important. You can never have too many friends. You can always have more.
It reminds me of what Jinxter said, an old guest here at the Pier, neuropsychologist. He always said that VR should be a complement and never a substitute to real life interactions. It shouldn't be just like social media, shouldn't be a substitute to actual human interaction. You should still do it. I mean, VR could be like a really good tool for actually, you know, getting people out of the loop, or, you know, keep interacting with other people, especially people from outside one circle. But it should never be a substitute to actually going out and meeting people. So I hate to say that I had to bring up Jinxter multiple times here at the Pier after he showed up, because what he said was really true. And it still applies right now. People need to go out more. They need to interact more with people. They need to be. They need to, you know, get comfortable. You know, get comfortable with actually talking to people. VR. I like VR because it's a tool that can actually help with that. It's a training tool for some. You know, getting comfortable actually talking with people, getting conversations ready, getting the flow of things. And that is one of the things that I really like about VR is its capabilities to help the human condition, to just help people. I mean, some people use it to stay fit. Some people use it to socialize. Some people use it to, I don't know, freaking simulate like they're at war, Onward, or freaking any shooting game out there. Now, with the time I have left with you, I want to talk a little bit about your VR story. What was the thing that got you in VR in the first place?
Actually, funny that you asked me that, because it kind of goes off of the conversation we were just having. So, when I moved up towards the city for my jobs, I moved away from my hometown. I live over an hour away from all my closest friends I grew up with to a new area where I knew absolutely nobody. And there's a lot of times where even my buddies in my hometown, they're not playing video games every night. They're not on Discord. I'm not able to talk to them. And I found myself just sitting in my apartment alone with no one to talk to. Yeah, I'm talking to my coworkers at work, but, once I go home, it's, I'm alone. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment by myself. And, I found myself, I was just getting very lonely. And I had a VR headset, and I never played VR chat. I played it once, and I was like, man, this game is weird. I don't know if it's for me, and I didn't play it for months. And I finally was just so bored and had no one to talk to one night because all my friends were busy, and I just wanted to talk to someone. I got on the game. And I can't tell you what world I ended up in. I was just like world hopping around. And I found out very quickly that this game is a good tool to especially like build social skills in some aspects, especially for people who may not be good at going out and making friends in the real world. And I just got on here and I finally met, some people who were really chill and laid back. And I was like, man, these guys are actually chill. From all the YouTube videos you see, of all like the VR freakouts, you're like, man, there's a lot of weirdos on that game. I don't know if I want to play it, but if you get on and actually play it, you'll end up finding eventually like your group of people. Over time, I found like the furry people, if you will, and then them darn fuzzies, and I met a few of them that were really chill, so I just kept coming back to the same world and the same group instance I was hanging out in. And then I started making more and more and more friends. And that just got me hooked in VR. And then also the technology aspect. I'm a bit of a nerd, I will say. I like cool technology. And once I found out what full body tracking was, I was game. I was like, I need that right now. I looked up the price and I was like, I need that after a few more paychecks.
Steep.
I mean, it's not full body's not the cheapest, especially if you want pretty good, high quality, accurate full body, if you will. Even though mine's like screwing up, even though I have like Vive 3.0s. And once I started getting into full body, I started playing the game more. I started meeting new people on the game. I've met people in this game that it turns out I live 30, 40 minutes from. Now they're real life friends. They're not even just online friends anymore. I have a buddy who lives 40 minutes north of me, and I met him in a random furry world. And now he's like hangs out with all my IRL friends, or most of them, I would say. When we go hang out, we bring him with us now. Like, we literally just added a new friend to our crew through this game. And just, I've met some other people too through this game, who I've gone and hung out with. I've probably met like 3 or 4 people now in this game that are now real life friends, which is really cool to me, that you're making real friends through a game. And to all the parents that might be watching this, or if you're showing this to your parents, my parents hated video games when I was growing up. They were very old school, very country, and they were against it. They thought it was a waste of time. Video games are a good substitution for being social. It's not as good as the real thing and talking to people in real life, but it's still a good substitution when it's a weeknight and you just want to chill and go talk to new people. You'll learn new experiences. You'll learn about new things. You'll learn about different cultures. Because right now I'm playing with someone who could live on the other side of the earth. You can talk to them, get their experiences about what it's like living in other places, learn about their cultures, just have conversations with people. And it's a really cool way to learn about different parts of the world and just make new friends. There is a thing that's too much, but I really wish my parents were a bit more chill with this when I was a kid growing up, instead of just, threatening to chuck my PlayStation out my bedroom window multiple times because they just didn't like video games, And they'd yell at me saying, you need to go out and be social with your friends. What are your friends doing? Go call your friends up. And I'd look at them, I'm like, all my friends are playing this game with me right now. We're all in a group chat. And my dad did not understand any of that. And he just thought, I didn't know what I was talking about. And I'm like, Dad, all my friends right now are on this game. Like, say we were playing Call of Duty. I go, all my friends are currently on the game playing. He goes, well, go call one of them and go hang out and go do something in real life. Go go on a hike, go ride your bikes or something. I go, they're not going to get off the game because everyone else is on the game. And I go, and if you tell me to get off my PlayStation, I'm now going to be the only one excluded from what all my friends are doing. So I wish some parents could understand that. And I do know it probably looks like your kid's just living on a console, but there's times where it could just be they're playing with their real life buddies, and that's what they want to do for their hanging out. It's just, everyone can stay at home. We don't have to get parents' permission to leave the house. Especially if you're under 16, now I don't have to try to get a ride off my mother or father, or, see if my buddy's parents can pick me up and take me to his house. Like, we can at least still all communicate and have fun from our own home. And VR is just another one of those games, where you just communicate, build relationships, and just have fun. And when I figured that out, I got hooked. I'm gonna check it, actually. Hold up. Because I have too many hours in this game.
I have a lot of hours myself. I know. Wait, I do.
You tell me how many hours you have, I'll tell you how many I have.
Okie dokie. Artichoke.
This is the game of who's the bigger degenerate right now.
727.
Wait. 700, 700?
Yeah.
27?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I thought you meant 7,000 at first.
No,
God.
Let me guess. Those are rookie numbers compared to yours.
Say
maybe. It. Say it.
I'm sitting at 2,796 hours. I will say some of those hours are me leaving the game on, and I go to bed, and I just forget to turn my PC in the game on.
Right. Probably 200 hours like that. Right. Probably 200 hours. Only 200 hours.
200, dude. I leave my PC on all the time. It's bad.
Oh boy, the electric bill.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on that.
So you develop your online persona. You've spent a lot of time not only playing regular online games, but now using social VR and hanging out with people, meeting new people. You did specify that being here in VR chat was also one of the reasons why you ended up becoming a furry, because you hang around a lot of really cool people who are furries in VR chat. Is that right?
That is correct. I'm now one of them fuzzies, if you will. And it's fun. I mean, I feel like furries have a really bad rep, and VR chat probably doesn't help with the clip farming people do. And by the way, half those viral clips you see are staged. I've met some of those people and talked to them and seen the full clips. Some of that stuff's actually staged, so take it with a grain of salt. Two, I feel like people just think furries are crapping in litter boxes and they want to be animals, which is a huge misunderstanding. I mean, by definition, a furry is just someone who likes anthropomorphic characters. So Zootopia, or if you grew up watching Back at the Barnyard, those TV shows where animals walk on two legs.
Space Jam.
Bugs Bunny, all that stuff. Technically, if you like that stuff, by definition, you're a furry. So if you like Bugs Bunny as a kid, sorry to say it, pal, you're a furry. Just some people, when it comes to dressing up as the furries, I mean, it's the same stuff as Comic-Con, where people dress up as their favorite like video game characters and go to conventions. It's the same thing, but instead of dressing up as a specific character, people dress up as like they get to make their own character. Just make a like cute little cartoon, fuzzy dude. It can be like a hybrid, like half, dog, half kangaroo. Who knows? Like you can just invent whatever you want and make your own character. And that's really what it's all about. Like, it's not about all the weird stuff people think it is. It's a lot more chill than that. And furries, I've found out, like to party hard. There's some crazy bangers and some crazy parties. Only attend if you're of age. There's a lot of alcohol. I'm not condoning underage drinking. All right. But if that's your scene, you're over 21, you like to party, have fun, you might want to check it out. You can have a lot of fun.
Oh boy. Well, I've been told that we are running a bit short on time. We're almost reaching the hour mark. So I want to talk about several different things before we end up. First off, perhaps you want to talk a little bit about your group. I want to give you a little chance so you can talk a little bit about the degenerate space for those that are watching. So take whatever time you want. After that, I have two questions after that, but please take your time explaining a little bit about your group.
So my group that I run here in VR chat is called Degenerate Space. And based off the name, it might sound kind of bad. But I mean, I just consider all of us degenerates as we're online tonight on a Saturday night and we're playing video games, like we're kind of degenerates. We're not really out doing anything in real life. But I created the group to just find really chill, laid back people who like to have fun, who like to party, who like to dance or just chill and have cool conversations. We typically host in like your general furry worlds. We also typically do 18 plus instances that you have to be age verified for. If any of this interests you, feel free to search up our group. You can join it. Just come hang out, see if you like the vibe. You'll typically see me there as long as I'm not out of state working. I'm typically in there. We'll be playing music. We got the white girl music going. That's my shit right there. Got some Lady Gaga. A lot of people might just be drinking or smoking, just hanging out, chilling. You'll see people dancing. And it's pretty laid back. Our moderation's very laid back as well. We have just a very few set of rules that we actually follow. Mainly like, don't bully people. Don't be a troll. Obviously, I feel like that's, a no-brainer. And, just don't be a dick and say something that's like too far, or, you just don't think you can say any slur you want to. I'll put it like that. Like we have limitations, but our mods are not ones that are like hovering over people all the time. They're in there to have fun. And our mods are only there to step in if need be. If someone's actually being a problem, then we have a few set of mods that can just step in and try to solve the issue. Or maybe if we have to, kick someone who's just such a problem, there's no hope for them type of person, which you do see in this game a lot. But other than that, we just try to have fun every time with minimal moderation, 18 plus. So it's just adults playing games together. You can have adult conversations and you don't have to be bothered by little kids. And most people usually keep coming back and hanging out. I can check right now. We're currently at 866 group members and we're constantly growing lately. I think a couple weeks ago we were at like 820. So we've gained quite a few in the last 2 weeks. And it's a great place to meet new people, meet new friends. I've met people in that group that I now know in real life. And so it's really great for that. Everyone's usually just laid back, looking to make friends and have a good time.
Well, penultimate question. I want you to do closing words for two things. But first, I want you to do closing words for your line of work, about what you do, about the people you met. I want you to, for those, for example, that might be either interested in getting into construction themselves, or for example, for those that might, for those that might end up working with foreigners, like what would you tell those people, like those demographics, like things, keep it short, keep it brief, but in depth if you want.
Getting into the construction industry can be, a little intimidating. There's a lot going on depending on what kind of jobs you're doing. If you're someone who likes to be outdoors, work on their feet, and you're probably doing something different or going different places every day, if that interests you, there's nothing wrong with working in construction. A lot of people look at it like it's such a bad thing. Like school teachers growing up will be like, if you don't pay attention, you're going to end up in the construction industry. And there's a lot of jobs in the construction industry that require highly educated people, just like my job, where I'm trying to locate hazards to make sure people can get home safely. There's a lot of math and other things I have to do on a daily basis, but I'm still, out and about, getting exercise and meeting people on these job sites instead of just sitting behind a desk all day. So if that interests you, look into it, and chances are you're probably going to make more money than the people that told you not to do it. Okay, I'm just saying construction work generally pays people pretty well. Secondly, there's a good chance you will meet, a lot of foreign immigrants, depending on where you're working and what kind of job sites there are. And just because they don't speak your language, don't avoid them. Go up to them. Even if you go, approach them with Google Translate, if they don't speak English, just strike up a conversation. Just ask them how they're doing, how long they've been working here, or maybe you need help finding something like the restroom. They'll go out of their way half the time to stop what they're doing and walk you around, show you where the restroom is on the job site or where you need to go to get supplies. They're very helpful and they're very nice people. I've yet to meet one rude person that was an immigrant on a job site. They were all extremely helpful people, even though we couldn't speak the same language. They were some of the nicest people I've ever met.
And finally, last question. This is something that we ask everybody here that comes into Pier, because this is a VR podcast and I want to motivate others to actually get into the technology, get into VR worlds, VR games. And there's still like a bunch of people that don't have VR or like don't see the benefit of getting VR, entering the VR worlds. So I want you to talk directly to that person, the person that is still undecided of whether or not to get a VR headset. Like if you could tell that person something, what would it be?
If anyone is ever looking at getting into VR and you're the slightest bit curious about it, go buy one. That means you got to buy a used one. I don't recommend, because you won't know if there's problems. Or scrounge up the money and just buy like a Quest 3 headset. Your experience will probably be better if you can hook it up to your PC. Just things will look better. Just get it and try it. My first time trying on VR was a crazy experience. It's like you're in the game. You can reach out and grab things. You look at your hands. You can everything for the most part can be interactive. And then if you like that, and then you discover full body tracking, now it's not just my head and hands that are in the game. My whole body is. You can dance, you can do whatever you want. You can, if you just want to like we are right now and you're just chilling and talking, this is exactly how I'm sitting in real life right now. The full body does a pretty good job, for the most part accurate, at portraying your whole body. And that is one of the coolest things about VR compared to any other game, is it captures your expressions, puts you in the game, and it is an experience unlike any other. So go buy that headset if you're even the slightest bit curious. It's worth it.
Again, thank you, Chicken Joe, for coming here, sitting with us here at the pier, and talking with us, sharing your story. And to you, our lovely audience, thank you again for sticking and watching another episode of Pier-to-Pier Podcast, where we bring those who reside within the virtual worlds to share the stories and the knowledge that they carry. May you all have a wonderful rest of your day.